Happy Valentine's Day to all of you watching us from around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's edition of Press Hour. On Press Hour today, we're going to discuss two very sensitive topics. Sensitive because they touch on the lives of the nation deeply. Embezzled funds, what hinders recovery? We have been fighting corruption as a country since 1998 when Cameroon won the unenviable position of the first corrupt country in the world, and the fight against corruption has been accelerated in the country with so many institutions put in place to make sure that the cankerworm does not disturb us from developing. We are going to look at those who embezzle. What happens that the recovery is not actually what many people think. Our question: President Paul Biya and the youth, mutual understanding? We're going to try to answer these questions. Our panel today, rich and they are learning in their different areas, and we're going to introduce them to you. Beginning with you, Lucas Teneng Chefo, publisher of the Reporter newspaper. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, and happy Valentine's Day to all our viewers. I hope our discussions today are going to enlighten Cameroonians, and most of them will be uplifted, and they will at least have something to take home back.
And that will be with your contribution. Welcome to the program. We are honored with your presence. Next to you is Barrister Fombat Munjem. He is one of our resource person, consultants on this program. Barrister, especially embezzled funds, what hinders recovery? You're going to enlighten us as usual. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Killian. Good day, co-panelists. Good day, televiewers. I hope we will be able to enlighten you today. It's once more a pleasure to be on the program.
Professor Willibrod Nzengwa, political scientist. He is also a historian, well-seasoned historian. When he speaks, people listen. Prof, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. I think it's an opportunity for us to tickle Cameroonians, as usual, for them to be able to think maybe differently. I think I just want to take this opportunity to wish every viewer a happy St. Valentine's Day.
Thank you very much, Prof. Each time you come here, we are honored by your presence. Victor Cham. Victor Cham is the publisher of Municipal Updates newspaper. He also publishes another newspaper, The Chronicles. Victor, welcome.
Thank you very much, Killian. Happy Valentine's Day to our panelists and, of course, to all the viewers. And happy birthday in areas to the head of state. Yesterday clocked him 88 years. I think it is a gift from God to be 88 and to grow old like that. Thanks to everybody who has kept the faith that today they are on to us this day.
We also wish the President, thank you for reminding us that he ages with grace. And we're going to set the program rolling with the press review, which usually makes us sit up for the discussions. Emmanuel Avenue has the press review.
The press week in Cameroon took off with a somewhat evaluation of CHAN 2020. Cameroon Tribune headlines Morocco is champion, then credits Cameroon for mission accomplished. To the Star, Morocco wins trophy, Cameroon credited for impeccable organization. The Guardian Post reports that the Lions CHAN expedition ends in tears as the Voice talks on Morocco's triumph, but says disgraced Lions leave through the back door. The blame game is on, according to The Sun. Sports Minister blames everyone but himself, slams Fecafoot and LFPC for Lions' poor performance. The Horizon is interested in Indomitable Lions goalkeeper Andre Onana, suspended for 1 year for violating anti-doping regulations. Then young people in the country are honored on February 11 on Cameroon Tribune. even as the Youth Day March past is cancelled due to COVID-19 spread. But the cancellation of the parade doesn't hinder President Paul Biya from speaking to the youths. He urges them to shun bad guys on the horizon, then takes new engagement in enhancing role of youth in nation building on municipal updates. The Horizon quotes Professor Nzengwa saying February 11 as Youth Day is attempt to distort history. Then one of Cameroon's finest journalists, Peter Kingsmanyo, is dead on The Voice as 3 hostages are freed in military offensive in Bamenda on the horizon. The Post quotes ex-AMBA commander, officers' intimidation, anti-Anglophone tantrums make me regret disarming. Just when Human Rights Watch indicts military over Mautu massacre, says soldiers looted homes. On Newswatch, Regional Council executives are better clarified on their missions on Cameroon Tribune when administrative tolerance soon to end for motorcycles in Douala who haven't regularized their situations on Cameroon Tribune. Then 5,000 Nigerians set to leave Cameroon from February 27 on the horizon. The Median reports it is a result of a tripartite accord sealed for 5,000 refugees to return home. Eco Outlook feeds its readers on Minfi's clean sheet in clearing internal debt, even as tension mounts with state agents threatening a strike over exclusion from recruitment of varsity lecturers on the Guardian Post. Modernizing livestock production, 10 billion CFA francs to support breeders on Cameroon Tribune as Japan extends partnership to promote primary education on the same paper. Then 60 Cameroonian asylum seekers get reprieved on the horizon. Let's now end our press review on the Horizon newspaper where 4 students accused of practicing witchcraft have been arrested in Kribi. The students of Government Bilingual High School Kribi in the South region were arrested upon reports of being in possession of a magical wallet to initiate their peers. After questioning by the police, the students admitted to have been contacted by a Benin-based witch doctor who promised them money in exchange for the lives of their relatives and the recruitment of their classmates. One even admitted to receiving 1 million francs CFA to be spent in a night. Until I come your way again, this is your Hour with the Press.
Thank you very much, Emanuela. We must note that most of our publishers did not channel the newspapers to Press Hour this week, and you made a laudable effort there to bring some of those newspapers that we had in Press Review. Our topic, the first topic we're going to treat is embezzled funds, public funds. What is actually hindering the recovery of public funds? We talked about the fact that so many people have refunded the money. Some of them have been released. We had a case who probably is not yet released this week, but the newspapers talked about one official of the country who was sent to prison for embezzling public fund, for misappropriation. I don't know which of the two words. That we have a barrister who here, he knows that the different things, but he paid back the money, and there's news circulating that he is shortlisted for release from prison, and he will not be the first. There are others who have been released after having paid the money they were charged for having embezzled. We're going to see what actually is wrong, what hinders recovery of public funds when we have some of them. We can only start with you, Barrister. Can we say that embezzlement, misappropriation of public funds, since the anti-corruption and the fight against corruption, the draconian measures put in place to make sure that the cankerworm is stopped, can we say that embezzlement, misappropriation has reduced in Cameroon?
Normally, once there is a law, there's an offense and a penalty, that offense must play that role of that deterrent role that stops people. I think that the law on the public funds in Cameroon, misappropriation of public funds,
it's just about comments. Can we say that misappropriation, embezzlement has reduced?
No, I think we can't say it has reduced, at least it has reduced, but I think that there is a possibility for the reduction to have gone furthermore. But there is a slight reduction. There is a possibility for that to be improved. When we look at when time will come, we'll look at the laws, we'll see where the laws could be amended so as to increase the reduction rate. But I think from a couple of years, the investment has reduced drastically.
Yes, just next to you, Lucas, can we confidently say that corruption, embezzlement, misappropriation, and other associated practices, vices in the country have reduced when the fight was
if we use the premise that in 1998 we topped the chart of most corrupt countries in the world, and we repeated in 1999, and till today we are no longer on top of the chart, although we still fall between the first 30 corrupt nations, the top 30 we are still among, we can say that we have improved, because topping the chart and moving down the chart means that there are some measures that have been taken that have actually made Cameroonians to think that corruption is a bad thing. We have reduced, maybe we have decided to develop new methods of corruption that are not cannot be tracked. Or I don't know whether it's because actually we have reduced, but the things that we still fall among the first 30 most corrupt nations in the world, but we are no longer the first. So
Prof,
we have reduced.
Thank you very much, Lucas, Prof. Both speakers, first speakers, the two, they say it has reduced. What you take?
Well, the topic in itself is a very controversial one, and if I have to give my take, well, it will only depend on what parameters they are using to say that it has reduced. I want to talk as a
He has talked about the index.
I don't bother about those indexes because each time they do come out, there is a response from government officials. I mean, insultive response most of the times. So what I want to say is that we are a bona fide Cameroonian, we live and move around Cameroon, and all the ministerial departments. I want to be very fair to say that there is no genuine intention to roll back corruption in the country.
Even with these people in prison?
Well, the point is that the notion we are being given is that corruption is only by some ex-minister or some people who've held public offices. But in a daily life, to the very basic secondary, primary school, pupils, teachers, universities, in short, all the ministerial departments, we have corruption. So I want to say, I think it will not be an exaggeration to say that it seems as if the notion of corruption in Cameroon is almost incurable because of impunity. There is a dichotomy between the laws and the concrete actions. If not, let us not only consider the ministers, let us see even the policemen on the streets, let us see the sale of marks to children, let us see the buying of marks, let us see at every level, in terms of even appointments, in terms of those who work in certain departments. Let us just get to the different ministerial departments. Tell me who the minister is, and I'll tell you who his subordinates are. In terms of that. So that is corruption. So if there is a genuine intention to stamp out corruption, then we are going to respect the very beautiful laws which have been coined in the country. What I was saying is that there is a dichotomy. So we should be talking much more of, before we go to recovery, I think it is incumbent for us to talk about prevention.
We allowed you to go to the end of your thought. The question I asked you is, with all what you have said, corruption everywhere, we agree, it is agreed at the very top levels of the state, has it reduced in the country? That's the question. The first question we're answering around the day.
Yeah, we should not consider it again top level of the state. To the best of my appreciation, I've not seen it reduced, because the impression is that it is only those who have been ministers who are... I see some political gymnastics in solving this issue of corruption. If not, I think we are very aware that every state, parastatal, there is corruption to the core. There's simple policemen on the streets, the school system. So what we are saying is that we need to practically implement the beautiful laws.
Yes.
I just said that we have the rules, we have the laws.
You have said that.
Yes.
When you say it shouldn't just be at the level of the ministers, you know, ministers have power. They have, call it protection at a certain level. If ministers are sent to prison, it makes noise. I mean, there are so many other people down there you're talking about who go probably, we don't have the same noise that we have when ministers go, which means, I'm still asking you, has it reduced?
Well, if you want me to say it has reduced, I will dance to your tune. But I'm not convinced that it is reduced. Okay. Because we were supposed to release all those who are in prison if they have to pay back what they stole. And there is Killian, there is exaggerated lack of accountability, be it vertical or horizontal. That is why the corruption persists. Okay, it persists. We just want to know whether it has reduced or not. Victor?
Yeah, I think government efforts in the past years are enough to explain how embezzlement and corruption has reduced in the country. For example, it is not 100% as of now, but we can boast of about 40–50%, looking at how government has done to bring to book those found guilty of embezzlement or corruption. We can see CONAC at work, the Supreme State Control at work, the State Bench at work, and other internal control mechanisms set up by government. And I think that the problem has only been at the level of how the competencies of these structures created to oversee embezzlement and corruption. Now, some of the structures like CONAC, they have the power to investigate, but they don't have the power to sanction. And that is where the problem is. And that is why I always say that government's good efforts could be corroborated and even made more exemplary by empowering some of these structures with the power to sanction, so that the road covered so far in terms of improvement to fight corruption and embezzlement will become more visible, will become more impactful in the society. It is true, the head of state might have put up very beautiful laws, very beautiful structures, but now let these structures be accompanied by very irresistible competencies. Okay, thank you. He's talking about CONAC, and I don't have the figures, but each time CONAC comes out with its annual assessment evaluation report, they always tell us at one time about 600 billion recovered or something like that. I'm not very sure about the figure, but they actually tell us they recover. Now, Barrister, you're going to situate us. What hinders the recovery of embezzled funds?
What hinders the recovery of embezzled funds is the problem is in the law. The law has made efforts to permit a recovery of the funds, but I think there are some slight modifications that need to be done so as to get the recovery more effective. I will go to explain. Normally, in all those who are prosecuted, all of them, they plead not guilty. And when they plead not guilty to the charge, they have to go through a laborious trial. Now, before we had a triple jurisdiction of a trial, which is a normal situation. That is, a case is heard by the first hearing instance, and then if somebody is not satisfied with the judgment, you go to the Court of Appeal. And then when the Court of Appeal passes judgment, if you are not satisfied, you go to the Supreme Court. So we have a triple stage of prosecution. But now, in Cameroon, in 2011, there was that intention to be able to reduce the duration of prosecution of cases when it has to do with investment of public funds. And that is how the law on the Special Criminal Court was promulgated. So that court was actually created, which has kind of a level of an appeal. It takes off from a level of an appeal court that is for cases where the embezzled funds are above 50 million and above, which means When somebody embezzles money above 50 million, the person is only tried in Yaoundé because the seat of the court is in Yaoundé, and if you are not satisfied with the judgment of the Special Criminal Court, you go straight to the Supreme Court. So we have just a double jurisdiction which permits judgment to be obtained within a short while.
But in that case, it's not hindering recovery as such.
Let me get to the point of recovery. Like I said, the people plead not guilty, which means they don't accept. And it is only after the end of the judgment that we can ascertain that they are criminal, because, like everywhere in the modern democracy, everywhere in the world, there's a presumption of innocence. So they are, those who are before the court, they are presumed innocent until found guilty, until their judgments are final. And final judgment means judgment that are passed by the Supreme Court. So now, before, if you imagine the length of time that you had to take from the first instance hearing to the Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court, it takes a couple of years. The good thing, the salutary part with the law on the Special Criminal Court is that it fine-tunes, or it gives out time limit within which to handle. For example, during police investigations and then the preliminary inquiry of the examining magistrate, the officers have 6 months to round up. When it goes to the court for hearing, no, they have 30 days to round up before the preliminary inquiries. When it goes now to the examining magistrate has 6 months to round up his hearing. When the matter is before the court, after the committal order, the judge has 6 months to pass judgment, which means it actually gives now a speedy attainment of a judgment. Now, the question now I have to ask is,
exactly,
what do you do with the judgment?
Yes.
What do you do with the judgment? When you have a judgment...
Given that we have so many of these people who have gone through that process.
When you have a judgment in your hand, it is left now for you to execute. When you have a judgment against somebody for investment of public property, it is left now for you to trace the person's property and to seize and to auction. And when you have a judgment, you now have to come back to the procedure of tracing and the procedure of execution of court, which is another, which goes through another series of trials. But now, when the law on the Special Criminal Court was promulgated in 2011, there was a short-sightedness at that particular point, in the sense that the law of 2011 actually helped in shortening the length it takes to get to judgment. But now it did not now solve the problem of getting back the money. So there was a modification of that law in 2012, wherein they brought the famous Article 18, which says that if you voluntarily pay back what you are charged for, you can benefit from a nolle prosequi. That law now gives room, which many people are doing, when you are charged and the amount you are charged for, if you pay back the totality into the treasury, then you can apply to the minister, you can apply through the Procurator General to the Minister of Justice, who can now instruct the Procurator General to enter a nolle prosequi, means stopping proceedings against you.
Good. We learned he has talked about those who can pay upfront. And he has also talked about recovering through property. How difficult is that?
Yeah, I think he's an expert in the field. I really want to appreciate his analysis. But let me say that the analyses are clear. Embezzlement is 50 million. So when we have not gotten up to 50 million, I don't know what that is called. He says
it's embezzlement, not the same.
What is that? Maybe I could rectify that.
He said it clear that it is the Special Criminal Tribunal that is specialized in handling cases 50 million and above.
I just want to cue on that. 50 million for embezzlement, for a particular court to take care of that. And the criminals, permit me call them criminals, refuse at first sight that they are not. No, the suspects. They say they are innocent. It needs tons and tons of evidences to prove them guilty. Even if they are proven guilty, you need to start tracing their wealth. How do you trace their wealth? When we all know that we cannot have the billions in somebody's personal account. We put these monies into diverse accounts, which makes traceability very, very difficult. That is why I come back to my initial statement. That
it's difficult. Before you go there, just on in line with what you are saying. We have several investigative verification institutions. We have the Supreme State Audit Office that does that. We have ANIF and if it's the agency that investigates certain hidden property. We have CONAC, which we know publicly. We have observatories. Why can't these bodies, these institutions, go into work and make sure that all these things that sometimes people know around, that this belongs to that person?
It is again the lack of the genuine intention to stop the corruption. Let me say, if you permit.
Yes.
Our constitution is very clear on that. We are talking about ministers, people who have public offices. We could trace their new riches. Permit me use the word new riches. If we respect Article 66 of the Constitution, why don't we reduce, ease the work of these people by practically implementing that article?
Remind us about
that
what
article
it
simply says that before you take public office, you have to declare your assets.
Declaration of assets, yeah.
Immediately leave office, there is another declaration. So we now know what assets you have made between the time you went in and when you went out. So we can be able to say that article, if it is now, do we implement the article? No. Why is the article after 20-something years in our constitution? So that's why I said there is no genuine intention. There is a dichotomy between what we have, beautiful laws, and the practical implementations in the field.
I think the law itself is already a good intention. Maybe that is not put into practice.
That is exactly what we are saying, that we have beautiful laws, but there is no genuine intentions, because when we come and talk, when we see huge figures, we want the small kid who embezzles maybe 100 francs. The principal who steals 50,000 francs as conditions for admissions has no embezzlement. I think there should be equal crimes or equal punishments for equal crimes committed.
Yes, Victor, what do you put in our package as part of what hinders the recovery of embezzled funds, public funds?
Yes, but the barrister talked about the issue of tracing. Tracing is quite difficult in this context when we don't know what we are tracing. The time frame, what are we tracing, and why are we tracing? For example, okay, we are tracing a stolen 20 billion francs CFA, which is now in asset form, maybe buildings, land, or estates, or whatever. Now, it becomes difficult because the time frame, is it from when he or she became a minister or a DG, or from when to when? So I think, thank God the head of state has started implementing the constitution to its fullest. For example, the aspect of power devolution to the local authorities. I think this is also an opportunity for him to take on the Article 66 and implement it, so that we are in February, so that from next month, people holding public offices can start declaring their assets. Let's know where we are going to, so that tomorrow we should not wrongly accuse somebody for doing things that he or she did not do. Of course.
If you permit me, there is this wrong notion of always blaming or praising the head of state. It is the responsibility of Cameroonians to stamp out corruption. If the laws are there, we do not need the head of state to go into all the public offices to check corruption there. If the laws are there, each ministerial department, each public officer, be it, is supposed to stamp out. So it is not the head of state.
Okay.
The rules are there. Yeah. People are supposed to make sure that they facilitate, ease the work of the head of state, by not waiting on him all the time to take one decision or the other.
Exactly. Okay. Yes, Barrister. Yes, yeah. I'm moving over to you, Lucas. Yeah. But there is this thing Barrister has to clarify for us. Prof. Zengwa just talked about Article 66, which states that before you gain access to public office, you have to declare your assets, so that at the end you declare your assets and we can see what you amass. This is not new, this discussion. It's come up so many times, and people say, those who are involved with implementing that, they say, no, that is done. That it must not be made public to Cameroonians. Is that true?
No, what is there is the Article 66 in the Constitution is there, and that Article 66 refers to a text of application. That text of application has been voted. The text of application has been voted, but what now holds is that not the implementation, the text of application or the board before whom assets to be declared has to be appointed by the head of state. So that is that board that we're waiting. Yeah. So, but me, I think that the problem is not even there. I want to I want us to examine one aspect of the law that hinders this voluntary paying back, recovery, voluntary paying back. As I said, Article 18 on the law on the Special Criminal Court says is to the effect that if you pay back what you are charged of, you may benefit from a nolle prosequi, that is the stop of proceedings against you. The problem with this law, the good thing in this law, or the problem with this law is that the advantages you gain depends on at what stage you pay back. When you pay back during police investigation and up to the examining magistrate before the committal order, you benefit from a total nolle prosequi. That the proceedings are stopped and the case ends there. But if you wait for the examining magistrate to complete his job and then you are sent now before the court, that the committal order has been signed and you are being tried before court, during the trial, if you restitute, if you pay back during that time, you may benefit from the nolle prosequi, but the court will go ahead to pronounce the forfeitures, that is the bans that follow people convicted for embezzlement, and then also they will mention it in your criminal record. And then where I see the problem is that the law says that anybody who pays before judgment, and now that is where the problem is.
Yes, and you have been using may. Yeah. May. That's the language of the court. Is it automatic that if you pay even before the end of investigation, is it a given that you will be benefiting from knowledge?
The law says when you pay, you have to pay and then you apply. When you apply to the Minister of Justice, the Minister of Justice will now instruct the Procurator General to stop it. So it is the discretion of the prosecution, the Minister of Justice.
Simply said he could say no.
He could say no, of course, but the experience we've had is that the few who have been able to pay, they benefit from the nolle prosequi because it acts as an incentive to others to voluntarily pay back. But I'm still coming back, if you permit, I'll land up with where the problem lies. If you say people should pay before judgment, which means when judgment is passed, you don't need to pay again. You can't pay to pay. You don't have any advantage if you pay back. And the main problem is that the amounts are always they are contentious. When somebody is being prosecuted, the charge sheet carries maybe 30 billion. And you tell the person that until you pay the totality of 30 billion and you apply, may you benefit from the nolle prosequi. And then when the person does not pay the 30 billion, he is tried. And at the end of the judgment, the amount is brought down to 20 billion. He no longer has a possibility to pay back to benefit from anything. That is why they prefer now to stay in jail. So I think that we need to go back to the drawing table to look at this law to see the possibility of also giving an opportunity to those who have judgments against them to be able to pay back and maybe gain benefit from maybe liberty.
Thank you for the clarification. We're moving up over to Lucas, who is not feeling very happy visibly because he has not spoken for quite some time.
Kilian, I was trying to say that what hinders recovery of embezzled funds, I think I can cite three things.
Yes.
The first one is the political will. Yeah. The political will is not there. As Dr. Nzewa was saying, it's not the law that is not there. The law is there. Implementing it has always been the problem. Let's not even go back to Article 66, because you can even implement Article 66 there and the embezzlers still dribble their way around.
How?
Because,
how?
They are smart.
They put the proper
they take the property and put in different people's names. They've already dribbled the Article 66. Before they get to office, they can declare what they have, but while in office, they still embezzle and put in other people's names. Yeah. And after they leave in office, they might be poorer, but meanwhile, they are very rich. That's the political will. The second
point, before you go to the second point, on that one of political will, I think when the laws are put in place, because we are talking about, Prof has said beautiful laws, Barrister has said the laws are good, Victor has said the same. You apparently are saying the same. By having good laws.
Let me go back to what.
This is the question I'm asking you.
Yes.
It will have good laws. It will have the laws already to punish. Is that not the will? Not the political will.
The will is applying what has been prescribed. Nico Halley has always said it, that Cameroon has beautiful laws, but we need beautiful people to implement the laws. The problem is not laws. The problem is those who are supposed to implement the laws. Let me come back to something.
Okay.
Imagine that somebody steals 20 million and he buys exquisite wine with 20 million and he drinks exquisite wine and you charge him for embezzlement. How can you recover 20 million when he has already consumed it?
Well, if he's a civil servant, he will work and pay with his salary, for example. That's just an example.
Okay.
How long?
I'm with you. Let's go now to our judicial system. Our judicial, this is the barrister saying our judicial system is not the best. I will say it anyway, it's not the best.
How do you mean?
It's also corrupt.
The judicial system is corrupt. The people embezzle big and they fight big. They embezzle big and they fight big. Before the criminal court came in, special criminal court came in 20.
The problem with what you are saying is that I find it difficult for you to prove that.
Let me prove it.
Okay.
Here. Before the criminal procedure, the criminal court came in 2012 because it was first of all created in 2011 and they realized they were not complete. They brought in a famous article in 2012. A lawyer could, somebody could embezzle because imagine Kodak was created in 2006 and in 2017 Kodak could only manage to recover 52. They said they recovered 52 billion in 2017. How many years? This is the special criminal court that was created in 2011, 2012. In 2020, they told us that they recover 9 billion. 9 billion. How much was spent to recover 9 billion? That's another problem. As I was trying to prove how the people steal big and fight big. Before the criminal court, somebody could take the matter from the court of first instance. The court of first instance could take 4 or 5 years to try a matter. Why the court of first instance is trying the matter, the only thing that the person has as a hindrance is that his liberty is hindered in the Koningi. But he goes out every day. He runs his businesses every day. He moves out with guards behind him. He pays in prison. Guards take him out. He plays his life. He eats well. He drinks well. Meanwhile, the money he embezzled, he might have killed. Because according to killers, if you are a medical doctor and you embezzle 100 million that was supposed to buy drugs for somebody, drugs to save lives of people, and those people die, you've killed them. What have you done? You've killed them.
Okay.
And you in prison, you are still living well.
The third one?
The third one is the laws governing banking. Before Cameroon created the Financial Investigation Agency, you could not just go to the bank and say that you should present Dr. Zengwa's account and the bank will give you. So if you had even stolen the money and put it in his account, how do you get to it? And if even goes and knows that this is his money, some of them have stolen money and put in banks, in names or in numbers. They don't have a name attached to the money. How do you get it back?
Let me ask you this question. Have you saved or deposited money to the tune of millions in any bank?
Presently, if you go to the bank now.
Have you done that?
I've done.
And you know that they will ask for the source of your money?
They ask for the source. This has just come now.
Okay.
This has just come now.
The reason?
They ask you for the reason of the money.
Yeah.
If I write that the reason is that I want to boost my account, will somebody come and ask me, why do you want to boost your account? They don't even ask the source of the money. People should do money laundering.
Let us see that is at that level. They would have asked the question and know who's going to verify. Yes, Prof.
That is one of the reasons why people hoard these monies in their houses. People construct beautiful houses and have apartments only for the hoarded money. You see, and let me say that one of the greatest problems is societal mentality, where we glorify illicit wealth. We don't bother to know where people have gotten the wealth. We glorify them, and people take time wasting the resources. I come back to that issue of impunity. I think that if the legal minds were given the opportunity, given the means to sanction the others, we could solve the problem from there. I mean, the lawyers, the magistrates were paid well and given the authority to investigate and punish. I think we will not be where we are today. The point is that everybody is doing the survival strategies. That's why I don't want to limit it to lawyers or to the legal minds. It is a general notion of Cameroon which lacks the political will, as you say. There is no genuine intention of punishment. Because it has been done in some countries. If some big man someday called all of those we know have embezzled into a conference room and say, I know you have embezzled, please bring back the money. I give you 1 week to do that. people will bring back the money.
It has been done. It was done in Senegal.
It is done in other countries.
It was done in Senegal.
So if it is
was
done in
Ghana.
Cameroon, we are going to see people bringing back the money, and we can get people to live in exaggerated affluence.
Okay.
I don't. I don't understand why a lawyer will accept to defend an embezzler.
Barrister.
That's something I've been asking myself for the past 10 years. Why should lawyers accept to defend an embezzler?
Even when it is proven?
Yes. I think lawyers should be able, that the Bar Council should be able to come up with a clause which prohibits lawyers from defending embezzlers. I mean, where known and established embezzlers. To me, it is their right. Let me learn. It is their right to have a lawyer to speak on their behalf, to interpret or not. But again, that moral aspect, I think it is important that lawyers desist from.
Where is the moral aspect in your job, in your profession?
Yes, let me clarify. The principal role of a lawyer is to help the judge in the search for the truth. That is the role of a lawyer. That is the role I play as a lawyer. As a lawyer, I make sure I help the judge in the search for the truth.
If your client is at fault, you tell the lawyer, my client is at fault.
Let me continue. There is a presumption of innocence, as I said. Everybody is presumed innocent until proven guilty. The role of a lawyer is to make sure that your client is tried under the conditions provided for by the law. When a client tells me, I've had cases where the client tells me in the office that I actually committed this offense, and I tell the client the best way for me to defend you, let's go to court, you plead guilty, I will go in for mitigating circumstances and I can get you out of jail. I've done that.
Exceptions. Exceptions.
Okay. No, we got that. We are going to just go round the table because we have another topic which we'll treat in the next 10 minutes. Beginning with you, Lucas. We are talking about recovery of embezzled funds. We first of all have to prevent this. One or two ways.
I feel very, very ashamed that there are people who have stolen a lot of money in this country and they are living in prison, and they will know they have the money and they are there in prison enjoying the money while people are wallowing in poverty outside. So if the power that be could give them the opportunity to refund the money without passing through the judgment, I think we'll have something in our state coffers that we could involve or engage into investments that are going to improve the welfare of
Thank you very much, Barrister.
Yes,
can you actually live in affluence, enjoy life in prison? Because just being in prison...
liberty.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that you are correct, but I think that when I come back to your question, what do we need to do to prevent embezzlement? I think that we need to review the law on the law that sanctions embezzlement. When you look at Article 184 of the Penal Code, it says anybody who embezzles public funds or public property from 500,000 upward can be liable to a life jail, and under no circumstances shall the mitigating circumstances bring the prison term to 15 years. I think that this law sanctions minor criminals very severely, but it does not sanction major embezzlers severely, in the sense that the law says the cutoff point is 500,000, which means if you embezzle 500,000, you can have a life jail term and you can come to 15 years. If you embezzle 30 billion, you can have a life jail term, your judgment can come down to 15 years. So I think that we should, I'm sure that this law was written when the budget of Cameroon was just in the tune of hundreds of millions. But now we have budget in thousands of millions, so that's where we see issues of huge amounts embezzled. But I think that if we have to modify this law, we can actually put that somebody who embezzles from 1 billion should have a life jail. Anybody who embezzles from 10 billion upwards should be punished with a death sentence. That, I think that will help to deter, that will help to frighten people more. It will help to make people know that public funds are money that are good. They are frightful. That they should be frightened when it has to do public funds.
Good. So can somebody actually enjoy in prison?
Well, liberty has no cost, but I think that if you take a situation, if somebody embezzles 30 billion and is given a 15 years jail term, he can comfortably stay in prison for 15 years. Insofar as that money is not traced and taken from him, he will be comfortable for 15 years.
Preventive measures?
Preventive measures, how do they embezzle hundreds of millions and billions? That should be the question. I think it's the issue of bad governance. If we have to craft out good governance strategies and get them implemented, we are going to reduce this embezzlement to the barest minimum, because it begins slowly to get to those millions. We were just talking about the councils. We are talking about the Mekwira. We want to buy a pen, which we all know is 50 francs, 100 francs. By the time we want to do the budget for the ministry, what are the prices of the various actors? So there are bad governance strategies which are being used to encourage the embezzlement and be followed. So, to the best of my appreciation, how do we prevent it? I think we should get good governance principles that should be able to ensure vertical and horizontal accountability.
Thank you. Victor?
Yeah, I think it is very simple. Recovery. Recovery officers are very rich too. Rich.
Yeah, we're talking about just how
I'm coming to that. Yes, yes. I think...
What did you say again?
Recovery officers are very rich.
Recovery officers are very rich.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, I'm told that, you know, in that process of recovering, you're also recovered. So, but again, I think if you embezzle money and it's established that you embezzled, it can also be a platform for development. It should be a forum for development. That man, that woman should be charged to carry out development with that money. Government project. There are procedures. Contracts should be awarded using that money. I don't like when they bring back that money to the state treasury. It should be brought back through a development platform or project, so that people can stop from embezzling. Because when we hear that 2 billion was recovered, we don't see it, but we hear it was recovered.
For you to see it, you have to go ask the people who have said it.
I prefer that
to be sure that it's not there.
They carry out development projects, and if we can create a particular structure responsible for that, it will be good. So that the impact of that recovery should be fair. It's very important, and it's a lesson that goes to all.
Yes, Prof, just to come back to what Barrister Fombat said, he might have been too hard by saying that somebody who embezzles up to 10 billion should face firing squad. I think by saying that it's not
murder. It's murder, because you are killing hundreds of thousands of Cameroonians. It's synonymous.
Let us say the law takes care. We are moving away from firing squad. We should go instead for more draconian measures instead of talking about firing squad. We are lightening up things in line with human rights and the rest.
If the people are actually willing to hand their resources, to hand back those resources, we can say that all of those who are in prison, if they can hand, Mendoza has no reason to be in, Professor Mendoza has no reason to be in prison and suffering what he is going through. He's an academic, he's an influential Cameroonian. If he gave back what he got, I think they should be released, and the money used in investment projects,
told some of them
as Mr. Champ just said.
The problem is that what I'm saying is that when the law says that if you pay back the totality of what you are charged for, if you pay back when that amount is highly contagious, it is a problem. The totality
cannot be paid, because what our brother just explained, much of those money was used in things that cannot be accounted for. So sometimes we can pardon them if they actually show the goodwill.
If they pay back.
We have Bruno.
Yes.
But the law says we pay all. That's the problem.
We have Bruno who is here. Bruno, come along. Yes, as Bruno is coming, Barrister.
Yeah.
What actually stops somebody who pays from the beginning of the investigation, and when finally at the end of the investigation the amount is brought back, can he not go and request to have call it simply the balance?
No, because the law says when you pay back, you benefit from a nolle prosequi. I mean, they don't look at the case again. They close the case. So the
including even your money.
When you are paying back, you've paid back. So that money has been given to the treasury, and then they don't investigate. They don't go to verify the amounts. They just close. They know that you have paid what you are charged for, and the case is closed. So nobody goes to find out whether the exact amount you paid is different from what you were charged for. No.
Okay, we're going to take Bruno. Bruno is from CRTV Web. He has been monitoring the questions, your reactions through CRTV web Facebook since we posted this topic, especially when this program started early this afternoon. And he has some reactions that have come from some of you, our viewers. Bruno, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Killian. I just want to say that most youths are rather interested in what the topic that concerns them, what you're going to be talking about right now. And we are going to take our first reaction. It's from a usual contributor. He is in Dracom, Augustine. He says the youths have been neglected and forgotten for ages now. I don't see the possibility of any understanding. Besides, the age gap tells one that there is no possibility of understanding. You have Enuka Francis who says Cameroon is a country where the elderly work while the youth stay at home, and they talk about youths but invite none, or maybe are the youths because they even at 60 they call themselves youths. And we also have Mary Chin, who says perfectly I'm seeing youths understanding the presidents now. At first, they were like, it's only the presidents who could provide them with job. But now, most of them are self-employed. I think then she goes back to you and says, you to Killian, she thinks you can invite more youths to your program. And Jerry, this is the last reaction. Jerry in term will invite her youths. That's true. And Jerry in term says, I agree that the president BIYA and his government have created a lot of platforms beneficial to the youths, a lot of funding programs and small and medium-sized enterprise and opportunities. But access to fundings and other opportunities is so bureaucratic that it takes ages for a youth to get funding for their projects. Simplify the system and let's build our country together.
Thank you very much, Bruno, for bringing those contributions to us from our viewers. And it's a way of transiting from the first topic to the second, which talks about President Paul Biya and the youth. Mutual understanding. We go straight. We're going to start with you, Lucas.
Yeah, the head of state has always put the youths at the center of his activities. You see, for the past 3 years now, he has been speaking to them on the 10th of February. He has been speaking to them on the 10th of February. This is the 55th time. But the past 3 years, he has been so specific.
Yes.
He has been so specific, talking about the youths and asking them not to lose hope. So there has been that transition between him and the youth. But what beats my imagination is whether the youths have received the message of head of state the way he puts it to them. Because on the 10th of February, I was listening to a head of state in the head of state speech, and I was surprised that most of them were doing what the head of state was asking them not to do in his speech.
What is that?
Most of them were in bars drinking. Most of them were in bars, were watching football in other channels where the speech was not being broadcast.
I think I'm not stopping you to say that you found some youth.
I say some youth, not all.
Not most.
Well, let me say, I'm using a microcosm to describe a microcosm anyway.
60% of the population should be youth, or even 70%.
No, I think Cameroon is a young population.
Yes,
most of the guys are youth.
Yeah, so you found so many
some of them.
Yes, you can be sure that many others were in their homes listening.
They were either they were disinterested or they were distracted.
Yes.
And if they were distracted by what? By things that the head of state asked them not to do.
Okay, Victor?
Yes, that connect between the head of state and the youth has been very founded for the past, I think, 20 years. And for the past 11 years or 12 years or so, that connection has increased. I'm talking about since the coming of the Cameroon Youth Council in 2009. Now, the head of state has often reminded the young people that you have just one country. Mm-hmm. And that country is Cameroon. This means that you can hate me, President Biya, you can hate Cham Victor, but you should never hate your country. Mm-hmm. There is no perfect country. Which means what? Which means that despite the challenges, let's keep on forging ahead. Let's keep on working hard. Mm-hmm. No matter what, never give up. don't lose hope.
Yes.
I think it's important because as a young man, the worst thing is to lose hope. The moment you do that, you stop growing. And when you stop growing, you become very redundant. You become less important in society. You have no impact.
We understand you very well. Thank you very much, Victor. Prof, political scientist, historian. President Paul Biya, addressing the youth, told them not to take lessons from what he calls anti-role models. He's talking about people who are not in the country, or some of them who are hidden in the country, and he's instigating them to destroy or to copy examples that are not good. From a political point of view, how do you look at such connection between the president and his youth?
Yeah, I think that is a good connection as a father to be able to appeal to the young people. There is always this notion in the first place. Let me be very clear that the notion of youth is misleading. It has no meaning as far as I'm concerned. Because if you get to the dictionaries, associations, it doesn't have any age limit. But let us be very clear.
Youth?
Yes, youth.
We have sections of youth, for what I know. Up to 15 is adolescent.
Well, let us not go to the let us not go to the definitions, because I have an article, I have a document that has written, concrete document on youth and politics in Cameroon. No, there is. If you just want to know, in order to clarify it, get to the dictionary and get youth, get young, get old. It has no direct age limit. Right. So let us be very fair.
No, let us be exact, because there are people out there who call themselves youth. You cannot come and tell us here that they are not youth. No, they are not adults.
No, don't push me to say that.
Contextually.
The UN.
Can I be able to say something?
Yes.
Please.
Can you clarify us on that? Say youth are from 18 to 35, from 15 to 35, or 40?
Well, to me, youth are between 10 and 35.
Okay, thank you.
10 because most children go to school, secondary school at 10, 35. And let us not insist on that, because the Constitution of Cameroon, in terms of civil service mentality, what is the age to enter public service?
32.
No.
18.
No.
To enter.
Okay.
Yeah.
To enter.
And when is the 32 to end, and by the age of 35 you end integration and you can vie to become the president of the republic at the age of 35. So it is, to me, from 10 to 35.
Okay.
Let us say that the president has been talking. There should not be the notion of the youth against the old, against the women, against this sectarian styles of talking. I usually tell the youth. Thank God I was invited by the Minister of Youth to talk to the youth and to talk about the youths of yesteryears, what the youth of yesteryears did as role models, and how the youth of today could be able to copy from those youths of yesteryears.
Yes.
Let me be very fair and frank.
In 30
this country has been molded. This country has been molded by young Cameroonians, by the youth of the yesteryears. People as young as 22. All the founders of the political parties of the years of old. Even the president of the republic today went into active politics as a young person. And therefore, somebody made a statement. The youth should take their responsibilities into their hands and avoid the blame game.
Thank you very much.
It shouldn't be
that's a
the
logical
old
conclusion.
people versus the young people.
Thank you.
They should take their responsibilities.
That's a logical conclusion. Just 30 seconds when you look at the time.
I think that, for me, the problem is not President Pobe. For me, I think that it's a question of the enabling environment. The youth, they have the population majority in Cameroon. They are very innovative. They are very creative. We should have a system where we have a strong private sector that will give room for the youth, to every person to fit. When you are in a country where the state is a major employer, this is a serious problem.
Okay. So we have to give the youth the chance. Thank you very much, Barrister Fombat Munjem. Thank you very much, Lucas Teneng Chefo. Thank you, Professor Willibrod Zengwa. Thank you, Victor Cham. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. Ladies and gentlemen, if you met us halfway into the program, please, you can watch a rebroadcast of this program on Monday, between 2:30 and 3 p.m. Or you just, at your convenience, connect to CRTV Facebook, CRTV Web Facebook, and you watch our program. Thanks again. We'll be with you next week, same time, God willing. Nice day.